What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Inside Daily podcast powered by Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Hope everybody had a great weekend. It was a great weekend for a lot of Canes prospects, stock surging, including one guy who might have played his way into first round consideration. Really excited to jump into that with Pete, kind of leaning on his NFL experience a little bit. Also, going to talk about the number one prospect in the country, according to some people, just put Miami in his top six. Had some very interesting things to say about the Miami Hurricanes. First, I want to talk about some folks that always stay on top, Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anijar and Levine. Pete, hop in.
What's up, D?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. It's funny. Draft season. I'm always like, oh man, I love draft season. We're getting close. It's a Senior Bowl. Then you look at the calendar. It's like 3 months away.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the longest thing in the world. I guess we got NBA to hold us over. It's kind of on a down period right now, but at least we got the trade deadline and spring practice. Not really that far. If we can get through February, man, we'll be in good shape. At least recruiting is getting hot and heavy.
Yeah, and there's actually a dead period now for the next month, I think, starting today, if I'm not mistaken. So nothing in person, excuse me, in terms of recruiting. But yeah, man, it's a fun time of draft year because you have these games, and then now you have the combine coming up at the end of the month. But then after that, it kind of gets a little bit quiet. You start to hear about visits that get lined up with these prospects, workouts as well. So it's a interesting time of year. We find out today officially that there's 10 invites to the combine, which is a really good sign in terms of the who's going to be drafted. That just because you get a combine invite doesn't guarantee you're getting drafted, but because there's more combine invites than draft picks, but you are certainly in the mix if you are invited there.
Yeah, so Pete, pull up the tweet. Let's start there. Got 10 players getting that draft invite. A lot of these guys recently played in all-star games or just generally had some buzz attached to their names, so we want to get to it. Cam Ward, quarterback, obviously invited to the combine. I wonder if he'll participate. That's something to watch. Maybe he's already kind of locked in at number one. Maybe he just wants to be a competitor and throw the football around. Damien Martinez, running back. You waited 225 at the Senior Bowl. He said he's always been mislabeled as a 240-pound back. He actually is in that 225 range. Still a big back. What he runs will be interesting. I've seen him at top speed, as you guys saw in the Iowa State game. Saw it in practice a couple times. He does have more speed, I think, to pull away than people think. Interested to see his times and how he catches the ball. Restrepo, we all know that's going to be a big one at the combine. Jacolby George, Sam Brown, Elijah Arroyo, Jaylen Rivers, Tyler Barron, Kiko Mauigoa, Andre Borregales. Simeon Barrow, the one that I think was a surprise, didn't play in any all-star games, did not get invited to the combine. First team all-ACC player, P. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was definitely a surprise to me. I mean, look, I don't think we expected him to be like a top 3 or 4 round pick in this thing, but you said it. First team all-ACC, comes over from Michigan State having been a productive player there. The size was always going to be a question. He's not your prototypical 6'3", 315, 320-pound defensive tackle, 6'3", 6'4". I mean, he's a bit shorter, strong, very disruptive, but just doesn't have that frame, right? So either way, I mean, I think a guy who at the combine would have done well in some of the short area quickness testing, which always goes a long way in terms of helping people's draft stock. So he'll have a chance to do that at Pro Day. I know he was banged up at the end of the season, so I don't know. I'm going to look more into if maybe that had something to do with him not getting an invite to a game. He might have turned down an invite, and if you can't play in those games, a lot of times, if you're hurt, then you can't go through the interviews and stuff there. So maybe that affected it, but no combine was a bit of a surprise to me.
Now we'll say, Jaden Davis, did he go to the combine, the defensive back?
No.
So, yeah. So,
listen, it's no guarantees that, like I said, it's both ways. There's no guarantees that if you get a combine invite that you're going to get drafted. And then it's not, even if you don't get a combine invite, doesn't mean you're not getting drafted. But believe it's always around 300 plus that get combine invites.
Yes. So not every, exactly like I said, the numbers don't add up that all those guys get drafted. Jaden Davis, somebody who did not go to the combine, went to the pro day. We were there, Pete. We hear a lot of buzz on him right after the pro day. We just kind of said, all right, that's going to affect his free agent, college free agent status. Then he ends up getting drafted by the Cardinals. So who knows? But look, Simeon Barrow, first team all ACC, very productive for Miami, did his part as far as what you paid him for leaving Michigan State. He's still got a chance. But as we go through this list and go through some of the film on these guys and the buzz on these guys, when you're invited to the combine and an all-star game, your odds increase significantly, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, Senior Bowl tends to be a pretty high rate of guys getting drafted from the Senior Bowl. It's not 100%. None of these games are, and there's no guarantees in this process. East-West Shrine game has a very good rate as well of guys getting drafted. But if you have both one of the games and the combine invite, it's a very good sign that you are because look, when it comes to these games there's a scouting staff for the Shrine game. There's a scouting staff for the Senior Bowl. But these are suggestions coming from NFL personnel, NFL scouts. Jim Nagy, who runs the game, is talking to scouts and personnel throughout the year, and they're telling them who they want to see in the game. So this is the league picks. Same thing happens with the Shrine game. The league is picking who's in these games. So that's what they want to see more from. Now, whether or not the player goes out there and holds up their end of the bargain, that's on them, obviously. But you're heavily on the radar if you're in one of these games, and then you pair that with a combine invite. And if you're a guy in this position, that's all you can ask for. You're getting yourself in front of these scouts to the highest degree. Pro day, you also have that opportunity. But if you take care of business leading up to pro day, as a lot of these guys are in the middle of doing here, starting with the week that they just had, and we'll get into each of them now in just a moment and kind of where they stand. But you pair that with a good combine and good testing, right? If you knock it out of the park at the combine, then you can only, if you're happy with your 40, you're happy with your bench press, but you want to really key in on the positional work at your pro day, which that's when you're working with an assistant coach from the league. And a lot of these defensive coordinators and head coaches are getting an eye on you working through those drills. You can focus on that prep leading up to the pro day and not really worry about, all right, I have to worry about my get off on the 40, on my technique in certain drills. So you can really focus on the football aspect of things.
Oh, great breakdown. Again, for those who don't know, Pete, former NFL agent. You're still an agent, right?
Yeah, I'm still in the mix, man. I don't recruit new players at this point. I work with a couple of my guys that I still have, but I'm still in the mix. I still talk to a lot of NFL people, talk to a lot of people in the business. So keep myself very connected to everything, of course.
So Pete, I sent you something in the private chat. Pull it up here. But before we get to the tweet, Truth Over Falsehood saying, D-Money Pete, guess who I ran into 2 days ago at Best Buy in Fort Worth? Oh, you got to let us know. Dallas, Texas. Hopefully a recruit that wants to be a king. And they used to be an area that Miami recruited at a high level.
Maybe Cam Ward. Has he been training out there with Shador?
Oh, good call. Good call, right? He's Dallas-based, right? So that could be one.
I see them doing some work at SMU. So let us know, man. We'll Cam. Well, this is JA also says Cam Ward,
the number 1 draft pick,
and that leads us into the tweet that you wanted me to show here. D, look at that.
Let's go. All right, so Pete Thamel, who is with ESPN, going to the Senior Bowl. Pete, again, Pete, you're familiar with this. It's not just you're going there and watching the prospects, right? It's like a reunion for all the execs, all the scouts, the media guys, the coaches, and there's a lot of chatter, right? A lot of chatter, not necessarily just about the players that are practicing, but about transactions, players in general. It sounds like Pete Thamel saying that the buzz around the number 1 overall draft pick is that the Tennessee Titans will in fact pick Cam Ward 1-1. Before we get into Cam, how accurate have you found some of that buzz when you go to the Senior Bowl? I know you went how many years in a row, right?
5-6 years in a row up until last year. Yeah, so last year was the first year I didn't go, but no, it is for the most part very, very accurate. I mean, people talk. There are so many conversations that go on, and really, like when you see something like this come out and you pair it with the fact that Cam did not go through the week of practice, you hear about this in the NBA a lot as well for the basketball fans, but like these draft promises or draft guarantees, I don't think that the Titans have necessarily told him straight up, you're going to be the draft pick, but I would imagine he has a pretty good idea, especially considering he didn't do anything. Neither did Shedeur at the Shrine game, right? So that's not, someone could easily point at that and say, well, Shedeur didn't do anything either, so does he know he's going to be the first pick? No, but I have a good feeling that Cam has an inkling that's where he's going to end up.
Yeah, and look, first of all, this would be amazing for Cam Ward. I'm sure he's always dreamed about being the number 1 overall pick. I think it'd be huge for the Miami Hurricanes, Mario Cristobal, the ability to recruit, right? This is the kind of thing that kids really pay attention to. You could say a million stats, but they know who the number 1 overall pick is. They know who's shaking Goodell's hand first, and that's what they all dream of. So the fact that a Miami Hurricane could potentially be the number 1 pick, huge for recruiting. Help me out in the comments, but I don't believe the Titans have picked a quarterback in the first round since, Mariota's second pick. I take it back. That didn't work out when they picked Mariota. The last one I think that could worked out was when they picked Steve McNair for the Houston Oilers. Of course, this was the predecessor franchise for the Tennessee Titans. And ironically, when Austin Feniger, former Cane, walk-on, ended up being an agent, he initially was involved representing, I believe, or at least trying to represent Cam Ward when he was at Incarnate Word. He sent me a text that goes, I got the next Steve McNair down here at Incarnate Word. His name is Cam Ward. This is before he transferred to Washington State. And it stuck with me because that was the first comp. That was the first time I ever heard of Cam Ward when he was in Incarnate Word from our guy, Austin Feniger. And he said, yeah, this is the next Steve McNair. And if you look at it, I don't think he plays exactly like Steve McNair, the late Steve McNair. But in terms of being a stronger type of quarterback, a leader with great confidence, I see some similarities between the two. So that'd be an interesting fit. Of course, McNair took the Titans to the Super Bowl back in 2000. I wasn't even in high school, or I was just starting high school.
So not to cut you off here, but I'm getting a message from our streaming thing here that says that there may be some issues streaming to Twitter right now. So if you guys are watching us on X, on Twitter, you can find us on YouTube if you're having issues right now. I don't know if it's choppy or if it's gone out or what, but apologize about that.
Yep, like and subscribe to the show if you are watching on YouTube. So, yeah, I mean, Cam Ward, what overall? I think it makes a lot of sense, Pete. I mean, if you're Titans, you need a quarterback pretty bad. You drafted offensive lineman first round in recent years, left tackle at guard. To me, it's a no-brainer. You got to get a quarterback, and he's the best quarterback in the draft.
Yep. I think it looks pretty clear at this point that he's going to be the guy. They've obviously been doing a lot of their background research, and the interview process has started. So, it's still 3 months to go, and smoke screens can always be involved here. But at this point, I would think it's a pretty good bet.
All right, so then moving down the list here, Damien Martinez, running back, and participating in the Senior Bowl. Not the best venue, really, for running backs. Not a ton of exposure to what you're going to be doing at the NFL level, especially a back like Martinez, who he's a full contact, full speed type of back. But what was interesting there, 225, he said that was his actual weight. And he really is in a crowded running back room or running back draft class. When you think about, here's some clips of him doing his thing.
And it's interesting what the note on this said. It says Miami running back Damien Martinez gives me big workhorse vibes. A guy who has the capability of playing 3 downs in the right system. At the Senior Bowl, he was the first one there almost every day and one of the last to leave. Great mentality, super high effort guy. Which it's interesting, D. We've heard things that say, man, is his maturity level where we want it to be? To me, he's a guy who, the way he runs the football, every time he took the field for Miami and then at Oregon State previously. And then you see stuff like this, that he was the first one there and last guy to leave.
Pass protection.
Pass pro, which has been a strength of his game from the start. Look, like you said, loaded class, but you get this guy in the 5th, 6th round, which is probably where it's likely he lands at this point. You're getting a guy who's an impact player as a later round pick like that.
Yeah, look, nobody expected Gus Edwards to have the career he's had in the NFL, over $33 million in contract money. Shout out to him. Even at knowing how he turned out, forgetting what he did at UM, just seeing him in the pros, I think Martinez is a better version of that same player, more physical, better pad level. So to me, I think a lot of teams, Baltimore Ravens, for example, even Miami Dolphins, if they need a more physical back, outside zone, one cut type runner, I think he fits like a glove. So he's someone that might not get drafted particularly high because of the position and the strength of the position in this class. Is one of the deepest running back class in recent memory. But I expect him to produce when he gets there. I like him as a player. I want all these guys to succeed, but he's one that I think is going to be successful.
All right, who do you want to talk about next?
So going down the list, there's a lot of receivers on the board, but I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because we got to talk about the breakout star of the Senior Bowl, and that is Elijah Arroyo. This is somebody who, I'm sure we'll pull up the clip if he does, in fact, get drafted high. But this is a guy who, before the season, we said, who's going to be a potential first-round pick from this roster? We all said Cam Ward just because, if it was a situation where he had the season we hoped he'd have and how it looked like his season would go watching him in spring, because of the position, because of the arm, he'd be a first-round type pick. So that obviously played out as we discussed. And then we were supposed to talk about who's another potential first-rounder. You said Markel Bell, who's not eligible, but, I thought he finished the season very strong and showed some intriguing traits. My pick was Elijah Arroyo for the reason you're seeing there in that video. Pulling up a comment from Daniel Jeremiah, who's I quote him a lot of times on this show, former NFL personnel guy, super plugged in with the NFL personnel community. He works for NFL Network. He was there in Mobile. Here's what he said about Arroyo. I had Arroyo near the bottom of my top 50 ranking, so basically like a mid to late second round coming into the week, but I think he's going to leave the Senior Bowl with some first-round buzz. We all knew about his size and speed before he arrived in Mobile. He showed that during his breakout season with Miami in 2024. The thing that stood out to me in practice was his route polish. He blocked well, too. The arrow is pointing all the way up. So to me, I think I'm looking at Kansas City at the end of that first, a lot of other teams late in that first. 6'5", 250, great routes at the Senior Bowl. Fastest tight end in the combine, at least that's what I expect him to be for the bigger guys, at the least. If he's not the fastest overall, I think he could be in that 4.5 range, potentially. Definitely 4.6. Plays that speed. Tough as hell. He played the entire Pop-Tarts Bowl. He's on the last play of the Pop-Tarts Bowl, not even worried about his injury history. Had one of the best effort plays I've ever seen at UM, running down an interception, basically the entire length of the field.
Balled out all week at the Senior Bowl and still played in the game.
Scored a 2-point conversion. To me, there's a first-round player. I put him in the same category as all the other tight ends we've had. I think he could be that kind of guy, Pro Bowl.
And D, I told you this the other day. I said it on the show that I had someone from one organization tell me that organizationally, their organization believed that there was a significant drop-off between Elijah Arroyo, where they had him ranked as a prospect, and Miami's second best prospect in this class, and that's including Cam Ward. There's a different scale that goes into grading the quarterback than the rest of the team, right? So we have to understand that than the rest of the positions. But in one organization's mind, Arroyo is far and away Miami's best prospect this year. Not to say that he's going to get drafted ahead of Ward, like we just said, but
yeah, I don't see a lot of downside other than the injury. And look, everybody's got injury risk at this point. He was perfectly healthy the whole season. He's fine now. So, we'll have to see how it goes, but I'm excited to see how that process goes. Real quick before we get to the next guys, Kevin Dennis asking about Derek Plaz, how he's doing tackle or guard. Every time I've seen him, he's been at tackle, but he's not the tallest guy in the world. I could see him eventually moving to guard, and I think he's doing pretty well. Not like a Francis Mauigoa instant impact guy. This is the true freshman from Jacksonville Mandarin, same high school as Carson Beck, by the way. But I think he's well on his way to be a contributor. I'll get an update on him as we get closer to spring practice. Let's go to the receivers because all these guys were participating in all-star games. So we got footage here of them performing. Let's start with the leading receiver in the history of the University of Miami, and that is Xavier Restrepo. One thing that we've talked about on the show and that I heard personnel people, just draft analysts at the practices talk about, they were surprised by Restrepo's size at 200 pounds, almost built like a running back. But there you see him in the red zone doing what he does best, double-digit touchdowns as a receiver. Look at that route and the footwork to score a touchdown. Pete, what do you see from Restrepo here?
Well, I mean, this is who he is, man. These are the third downs, red zone conversions. This is where he's going to really make a living. I think that he's someone that we know what he is in terms of reliability. Yes, people are going to get in the comments and say, yeah, what about the fumbles? And I think those are an anomaly if you just look at his body of work at Miami. I think there's going to be some teams that say, well, there's a certain limit to what he can do in terms of being a dynamic threat for us. So I don't know how high he's going to get drafted. But you look at it on the other side, and there may be a team that says, I don't care what, how fast he runs and all that. And look, he's I think should run pretty well. I think he should run, in the 4.5s. But the biggest thing to me is his size and his toughness.
Yeah, this guy's getting a lot of love from the ESPN analysts. I know these are not teams, but interesting to see who likes him. Field Yates, former scout, works for ESPN, said one of my favorite prospects to study throughout the draft prospect has been Xavier Restrepo. We'll see how much his size impacts his slot, but so much to like about his game. Quickness, toughness, strength, competitiveness, and clutch gene are excellent. Some shades of Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is from Field Yates from ESPN. Amon-Ra St. Brown, we know him now as a Pro Bowler, but I believe he was a 4th-round pick, which is kind of around the area you might see Restrepo go. Matt Miller said who's another ESPN analyst, said he's one of his favorite players. Senior Bowl, I don't think he was bad or good. He had some moments. We just saw a couple, but he wasn't, it wasn't like he was like a star of the Senior Bowl like Ladd McConkey was last year or Arroyo was this year. So fine week. I don't think it hurt him or helped him. The fact that he's not a punt returner, I think, is going to drop him down a little bit. Would you agree, Pete, in my analysis on Restrepo based on where he's at now? If he really runs a surprising 40-yard dash, let's say high 4.4s, low 4.5s, maybe day 2, otherwise probably in that 4th, 5th round.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. It's going to come down to how different organizations value his skill set, right? There's going to be some teams that don't really care about what the 40 is. They care more about his game speed, his play speed. Like the Rams last year, they're an organization I've mentioned before. Cam Kitchens ran a 4.7. And Cam Kitchens, he went in there hobbled. Probably should have never run the 40 there. Probably should have just ran it at Pro Day, but that's another story for another day. But was never going to run a blazing 40. The Rams are an organization, they send the least representatives to the combine of any team each year. They go more on the GPS speed. When the pads and helmet is on, what's that game speed look like? And I think that, that's an organization like that, a team like that doesn't put so much emphasis on that. And I don't know who it was, the tweet that was at Field Yates that said that his size might make an impact. But again, his size, it's his height. Yeah, he's not the tallest receiver in the world, but his size itself, he's not a small receiver. Like he's got, if anything, I think he's going to lean up for Pro Day and try to, get as lean as he can so he can run as fast as he possibly can.
Yeah, I think that'd be a smart move, but they know he's 200. That's what he played the Senior Bowl. I think if you're drafting Restrepo, you expect that he's 200 pounds, and if he comes in lighter, he's just kind of losing weight to run.
Yes and no, because Braxton Berrios did that for his career, I think, at the NFL level.
It helped Braxton tremendously. I just think Restrepo, what he played at the Senior Bowl is that's his weight. He's a big, strong guy. He's kind of built like a running back. One thing he has with the Rams, like the blocking, right? Rams like the receivers blocking. So I know you mentioned it in the context of they don't like the combine as much. I think they just like this kind of receiver. Rams a potential fit for Xavier Restrepo. Receiver who had an outstanding all-star game. Kind of the opposite, right? Because this is a guy who came in under 170 pounds when he weighed in, which is going to be the biggest red flag with him, along with the personal fouls that we all know from watching him play University of Miami. But guy who had a very productive season, made a lot of big plays, was very tough cover all year, and had an outstanding week at the Shrine Bowl. That's Jacolby George. I just reading daily reports on the Shrine Bowl. Everybody said he was pretty much the best wide receiver out there. Look at him here. This is at the practices. You see him just with the, what did we saw the very kind of fluid, flexible movements, got the ankle flexion, like they used to say, just really light feet when it comes to running routes, but also having ball skills. You know, Pete, I know you've been to the Shrine Bowl. What can you tell us of the Shrine Bowl in general? What does it mean when a guy like this, maybe he weighs 169 pounds, not a good start, but then goes out there and dominates the event?
Well, look, you said that when we were talking about Restrepo a minute ago, that, a team sees him show up a certain weight, or he played a certain weight, they know that's what his weight is. That's not necessarily the case. They do put a lot of stock in weight changes from now to pro day, for example. He's gonna have, and then the combine also. So he's got the combine in a month, and then he has pro day in another month. I'm not saying he needs to put on 15 pounds. His frame is what it is. He's never going to be a 190-pound receiver, right? But if he shows positive progress, because look, he's only had a month now to really. Now, some Canes fans say, well, why wasn't he taking care of his body a certain way when he was in school? But he's only had a month now in whatever program he's had after the season. If he continues to show positive progress, it does go a long way. So if he can maybe show up at 175 and move the same way he's moving here, right, then they do put positive impact on it. Because if he stays the same, it's like, well, he hasn't done anything to try to improve what we consider is a weakness of his, right? So steps in that direction would help him. But no, a guy who just gets open, we've seen his yards after the catch ability. He's not going to run. I don't think he's running a low 4.4, but it's that stickiness, like you said, the change of direction. And he's not really a guy that we saw deal with drops at Miami. For the most part, a pretty reliable receiver. Yeah,
shout out to Lights Out Sports for that long video, basically showing all of Jacolby George's targets there at the Shrine Bowl. And you see, he is making some guys look silly. He's catching the ball with his hands, fluid, just tremendous separation on his routes.
And I'll say this to you about the All-Star games. One last thing about the Senior Bowl and the Shrine game. We talk about it when we go to these high school camps, right? The one-on-ones are the biggest eye-openers, right? Because you can see all the physical traits and the football ability in those one-on-ones, whether it's receivers, DBs, O-linemen, D-linemen, running backs, linebackers, tight ends, safeties, all that, right? And if you're a talent evaluator, that's the easiest way, without looking at what a scheme is, because certain guys you're projecting that whatever they're playing in college is going to look different in the pros because they're in a different system. But those one-on-ones expose a lot one way or another. So you see Jacolby George doing that, just flat out beating guys one-on-one. And you're looking for a receiver and you say, man, yes, there's some stuff we need to clean up with this guy. He's not a finished product. Is it ideal that he's not 185, 190 pounds? No, it's not ideal, but that's where you find value in a guy like him in the mid to late rounds at that receiver spot.
Yeah. And the weight is a concern, but Tank Dell, someone who's smaller than Jacolby George, he got open with no problem and made a lot of plays. Obviously got hurt. So
Tutu Atwell got drafted still in the second round by who? The Rams, who didn't care about the measurement stuff as much.
Right. And look, it didn't work out necessarily for them, but I think with Jacolby, one thing is he's not like a small slot. You could play him outside. He plays a little bigger, even though he's not the most physical guy. He does have big hands.
To play. He's tough. He's willing to block. It's like we talk about this with DBs and corners all the time. We understand that those guys aren't going to be thumpers necessarily, but like you have to be willing to throw your body out there a little bit. Because if you don't have the effort, then that's a whole different story. You could put the weight on, but if you can at least throw your body around a little bit and play with some technique and physicality, then, the weight stuff will come.
Yeah, so he's someone to keep an eye on, but someone who really helped himself with this week. We'll see if he runs. I don't know if he's really a sprinter like that. So we'll see if he runs in that 4.4 range at the combine. That would help him a lot. I don't know if that's really his strength, but on the field, Shrine Bowl, big time riser. Somebody who we know loves that combine track and field setting and also did some nice things at the Shrine Bowl. Sam Brown, Houston transfer, disappointing season this year for the Canes. Never really put it together, got here late, and it just never fully clicked. But people are saying, how does Sam Brown get all this attention? Well, this is a guy with a top 100 grade by some teams before the season. He did not have a great season for Miami, but he wasn't totally useless, and goes to the Shrine Bowl and continues to make plays. We know he's going to go to the combine, which he was invited to, jump out the gym and run fast. But somebody who really did some work here, beat Shiloh Sanders a couple times, got some viral attention for that. Deion Sanders, his son. And overall, just teams are dying for an excuse to pick this guy.
Yeah, he's going to be a polarizing one with Canes fans. I mean, we've gotten it in the comments all year when I've said that this guy was going to be a draft pick, right? And it's not like I was saying anything that other people didn't say. We saw Dane Brugler from The Athletic had him as a top 50 prospect before the season. Look, I think there are a few factors. Obviously, he got in late. I don't think that helped him. But getting here late is not an excuse for some of the drops we saw, right? Like, and I think a lot of them were contested drops, which NFL teams will look at. But at the end of the day, you can't teach his speed, the length that he has, the yard after catch ability, which again didn't really see it all that much at Miami. But I've talked to some people inside Miami that have said that some defensive players say that he was the toughest guard on the team in terms of the receivers, right? When we're talking about Restrepo, we're talking about Arroyo as a tight end who's a complete mismatch. We're talking about Jacolby George. These guys are all getting drafted, and some people thought Brown was the biggest issue to guard in practice. So there's a lot of things that go into it. That's where there's some disconnect sometimes between like NFL scouting and personnel looking at the athlete and looking at what the potential of the player is, and then the fans saying, "Man, we watch this guy all year. He stinks." It's probably somewhere in the middle, right? He doesn't stink. He had some drops issues. There were some times that, yeah, you wish he could have broken a tackle or finished the play near the goal line. But there is too much of an athletic profile on him for him not to be drafted. And then it was flashing all week in practice too, which helps his case.
Yeah, it'll be, he didn't. I would have loved to see him play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl with Restrepo out and kind of, produce that way, because it's not like this guy's a first-round pick or whatever, even a top 3-round pick to sit out. I thought that was a missed opportunity for him, but we'll see where it goes with him. Clearly he has the athletic ability. I think the combine is going to be good for him. In terms of putting my name next to players, right? These are all guys I'm cheering for to succeed. I could see past to succeed, but in terms of guys that I feel extremely strong about, and I'll tell, I'm a Dolphins fan, I'll tell Dolphins or whoever, these are guys that, watching their whole careers, you feel very good about them being successful, barring injury. I would say Elijah Arroyo's one. Injury is the concern there, but if he doesn't get injured, I don't see him failing. I cannot see it with his size, with his fluidity, with his toughness, with his attitude, how good he is off the field. The other guy that I feel very, very good about, Jaylen Rivers, another guy who signed with that Manny Diaz actually, and developed into an NFL player. I don't understand, and now he's starting to get some attention. I never understood why he was never talked about more, because this is a guy who's with 35-inch arms, 6'5", 6'6", 330, not fat. He's not going to be the ultimate athlete when it comes to a testing setting, but all this guy does is produce. There you see him having a really nice rep, using those long arms. He had a good Senior Bowl week, had some battles with Darius Alexander, who's going to be a very high pick, I believe I got the name right, the Toledo defensive lineman, who was one of the stars of the week. So he won some and lost some against him. But overall, the size, the intelligence, the flexibility, the length, the fact that he's in good condition, the experience, the fact that he can play center, guard, and tackle. I struggle to see a world where Jaylen Rivers doesn't start for many years at the NFL level somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the lack of high-end buzz in terms of mock drafts and stuff, I really think goes down to what you said in terms of he's not a freakish athlete. So he's not going to jump out of the building. He's not going to look like super graceful when you see the clips of him running the 40 and all that. He's not a bad athlete. I think he's a good athlete. He should test pretty well. But O-line, you look at the guys who get picked a lot of times in the top part of the draft, and they are just absolute freakazoids in terms of what they can do. The versatility is going to help them in a big way. There are a lot of teams that when they pick offensive line, they don't care so much about the traits, and they're looking for guys who can play across the line. They're looking for a strong player. He's a very strong, in the weight room. He's powerful. But I think the versatility, the ability for him to play guard or center, I've talked about this before. Someone like Matt Lee, outside of the injury issues, the fact that Matt Lee was only a center did not help his stock for the draft. Jaylen Rivers, because teams aren't going to keep a guy as a backup center who can only play center. You're only keeping, normally teams keep like 8 active offensive linemen, for a game. So one of them is going to be probably a guard tackle. One of them is going to be a guard center. And then you have, a guy who can play pretty much across the line. Rivers has a really good chance, I think, to come in as a guy who starts as a rookie if it's the right situation. Probably looking in that 3rd to 5th round range for him, but I think trending up towards closer towards the top 100 than when the week started, without a doubt.
Yeah, Pete, ignore the text I just sent you or the tweet I just sent you. I think that's a copyright violation. I don't need NFL Network coming after me. I don't need Roger Goodell messing with Kane's Insight, but I'll read out what the text of the tweet said. This is Dane Brugler, who Pete is someone who's very plugged in the scouting community from your days as an agent, media guy for The Athletic, but more plugged in than your average media guy. So
I think we can use this. I don't think this is from the broadcast.
Let's leave it. I'll tell you what it is. It's Jaylen Rivers winning a rep against Iowa. I think it's actually the same rep that you showed earlier. But he says, can't mention.
I'm telling you, this isn't from the broadcast. I can show this.
All right, Pete. If you owe me dinner if this one gets hit. So can't mention the winners of day one without mentioning Miami offensive lineman Jaylen Rivers, dancing bear with 35-inch arms, and he uses every inch to consistently control his man. Took reps at OT, OG, and center today and played at a high level. A Brandon Thorne favorite.
Look at that.
There you go. Using the arms.
Glory. D wants me to get it off the screen now.
I know. I'm freaking out. This one gets hit, Pete. I'm telling you. You're taking me out to...
This is practice footage, man. Look.
They've filmed the practices now, my friend.
Yeah, but it's not the practice broadcast clips are the ones actually from NFL Network.
All right, you're taking me to Planta. You'll try some of the vegan food if we get hit on that one. All right, so moving on to a defensive lineman, played in the Shrine Bowl, had some fans there, which is Tyler Barron. I mean, you're talking about on the hoof. It does not look any better than this guy. He is absolutely prototypical in every single way. I talked to his dad. I interviewed Tyler Barron for the Storm Sessions with the Miami Hurricanes official account. This is a guy who the dad trained him to be a defensive lineman from the jump. He knew he was going to have that body type, so he had him playing tight end. He had him wrestling. He had him doing things all to basically make the perfect defensive end. And the skill set is there. I mean, you see it right here. Some of the bend, some of the athleticism, the finish. The issues with Barron, just from a football standpoint, I don't think he's the best finisher in the world. There's some tightness there once he gets to the quarterback. And then just from a performance standpoint, towards the end of the year, maybe a little too aggressive going for sacks, lost contain, lost some discipline when it came to being where he was supposed to be at the expense of trying to, get as many sacks as he could. So tape very much up and down at the beginning of the year. It looked like a for sure day 2 type pick. Didn't finish that way. We'll see how the combine goes and he can split the difference. I thought he showed some motor. You had moments where he was running down the field against Florida, USF, just chasing plays down, going almost 80 yards, showing his speed. The production, again, hit or miss. I think if somebody if you think of Leonard Taylor as a comparison, not the same player, different positions, but Leonard Taylor's a guy that went undrafted, but ended up making the Jets and playing pretty much every game, getting sacks, playing real snaps. Again, different position, but Barron could be someone you buy low with the idea that we'll get him to the NFL and we'll get the most out of that body.
Yeah, the body type is the number one thing at that position. Normally, at that, if you're talking about this range of draft picks where he's probably going to get picked, which is in the later rounds, he is going to stack up physically better than most of the other guys who are also available at that same stage, right? The guys who also get drafted there are a lot of times high productivity pass rushers who don't have the measurables, don't have the twitchiness or the length that some of the other guys have. So in that aspect, there's going to be a team that takes a chance on him because he has all of that. And then when he gets in camp, he's going to size up well. So he's not going to be a guy that's going to be easy to cut if he gets in there and plays hard. And really, look, it's not like he needs a sack every play. We know that's unrealistic. But if he brings the energy every play and he doesn't take plays off and he's asked to do, he does what he's asked to do on each play, then he can be a very good player at the next level.
Yeah, Jim Nagy, head of the Senior Bowl. Now, Barron went to the Shrine Bowl and performed well, but Jim Nagy, for the Senior Bowl, when he was talking about him during the season, said, verified 6'4", and these are measurements from scouts, so you could take these to the bank, at least at the time of the tweet, which was early September, late August, saying Tyler Barron, 6'4", verified, 260 verified, 33 and 5/8 arms, which is what you want. They said they had a mid-round grade on him at that time. So we'll see how it all plays out. Good comment from Mob Life here. Fellow Canes family, is this the most potential draftees we've had since the Duke Johnson draft when Golden had like 7 or 8 drafted and we went 7 and 6? Yeah, there were a lot of drafts like that. I think, I think one of the drafts, it was Mark Richt players, but it was guys that Golden signed. I want to say like 2016, 17, we might have had 9. 9's the closest we've come, but 10 is potential here. And if you get 10, 10 is like national championship contender type. Obviously, Miami didn't even make the ACC championship this year, so didn't meet that standard. But you want to live in the world where you're getting 10 players plus, give or take a couple every year. That means you're going to be consistently nationally relevant, barring anything unusual. So 10 is a really, really good barometer. You got 10 invited to the Senior Bowl, 10 invited to the Combine, 10 we're talking about today. If you can get all those guys drafted, that's basically the cutoff for national championship contenders. So we'll see. It will be the most Miami's had. If we get 10, which again is not guaranteed at all, if you get 10, that's the most since, I want to say 2001. We know what happened in 2001. The 2002 draft, 2001 team, I believe, was the last time Miami had 10 or more drafted players. We all know what happened. Then a lot more first rounders, a lot more future Hall of Famers, impact guys that time. But a number to keep in mind as a very telling number is that 1-0. So as we move on, going to the linebacker position, another guy that played at the Shrine Bowl, and I thought it was very interesting. All the highlights I saw of him were in pass coverage.
I was going to say, this is going to trigger some of the Canes fans here.
But a guy that's really played hard for the Canes, showed a lot of different skills. Linebacker's not the best, these all-star games isn't the best forum necessarily for these, or showcase for these linebackers, but Kiko Mauigoa, there you see him in coverage, man. He played really, really well, according to people there, in coverage. We know he's got size. We know he could rush the passer. We know he's tough as heck and will hit guys. So to me, the fact that this was something that showed up at the Shrine Bowl is only going to help his draft stock.
Yeah, you see I'm gonna pull up what the actual tweet said. It said good juice from Francisco Mauigoa to close late in this coverage rep against Raheem Sanders and rake the running back's hands to create a pass breakup. So look, he is obviously more of a downhill linebacker, and as a blitzer, his junior year was really effective like that. I think against the run is a really effective linebacker as well. I think obviously getting sideline to sideline and some of the stuff laterally has been a bit of an issue for him. I don't know if that's his body type. I don't know if he was playing a little bit heavier this year. I don't know if that was the role he was being used in, but this was a very productive linebacker throughout his career. Probably is going to end up running a pretty solid time, comparatively to how many would say he played in coverage this year. Because I think when he's getting downhill in a straight line, he's moving. It'll be interesting to see what he weighs in at Pro Day and the Combine. But to me, probably a 7th round to undrafted guy right now.
Yep, that sounds about right to me. I like his pass rush. I think that's something we could have seen more here at the University of Miami, playing downhill. Now, here's a guy that who knows where he's going to get drafted, and I can't pretend to scout this position, but in terms of guys that are going to be missed on this team and that were really consistently effective, Andres Borregales, the kicker, good sign for him. There you see him bombing them. Good sign for him. He's invited to the Shrine Bowl, right? He's able to compete there, and he's invited to the Combine. So he's going to get chances to show what he can do. Elite kicker, production-wise. I think he has more NFL-type form than his brother. His brother was very effective, but didn't look like an NFL kicker the same way that Borregales does, just the smoothness of the kick. Didn't have the same kind of, I don't think he was invited to the Combine. I could be wrong. But Borregales, you're seeing that kind of buzz. He met with a lot of NFL teams at the Shrine Bowl. I think the only question with Borregales is consistency is great. His distance is there. The only question with him is he didn't do a great job with the touchbacks this year. And NFL with those roster limits, you don't necessarily want a different touchback guy than a different kickoff guy than your kicker, unless the punter just happens to be really good at it. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. But Borregales, in terms of hitting long field goals, doesn't have that problem whatsoever. No,
absolute beast. I mean, like you said, it's a bit of a crapshoot when you talk about whether or not you can say a kicker or a punter is going to get drafted. I remember asking scouts about punters and kickers, and they just would kind of like shrug their shoulders sometimes. Sometimes it was just like they'd throw darts on a board. They would have a couple guys. You look at percentages. You look at, for punters, they look at hang time. That is an important number for them, but it's a very numbers based thing. What are your percentages like? What are, your leg, the distance of the leg, the touchback thing could be a factor for him, but you're talking about a guy who got better first year as a freshman, 81%, second year, 85%, third year, 85% again. And then last year, 94.7%, only one miss. So, to me, he's automatic. You hear earlier this year, Coach Cristobal say that his mentality is more like a linebacker, that on that he's put good weight on, which that stuff is important, man, when it comes to leg strength and stuff like that. So, and he's a guy that, just having been around Andy a little bit and talking to other guys on the team, like, he's not looked at as like the kicker sometimes is the outcast or the kicker, they're not really a part of the team. Michael Badgley was very much the same way with him on campus. He was looked at as one of the guys.
Another NFL kicker.
Yeah, another NFL kicker. Like sometimes you need that. It is about the numbers, but you need to have a little bit of that mental edge to you. And I think Borregales 100% has that. And he's, again, like I said, very well respected in the locker room, and he's a dude. So
18 and 19 this year.
That's what I said. So,
man, yeah. So, and then long 55. Man, this guy was such a good kicker.
And like
56-yarder against Virginia Tech, 55-yarder against Louisville. We didn't even think twice about it.
Right. It's hard to quantify, but it's something with kickers where, like, you don't even like skip a beat when he's up there. Like, you're not like really worried if he's going to make it. Every time he stepped up, I thought he was going to make the kick.
No question. 51-yarder against Florida State, 51-yarder against Louisville, and going back a year, 50-yarder against Virginia, 50-yarder against Texas A&M. We're going to miss him. We don't talk about him as much as the Cam Wards of the world, obviously, or the Restrepos or Jaylen Rivers. But, man, we are going to miss Andres Borregales. Hopes he gets a chance to hear his name called on draft day. He is definitely going to get a chance to kick in the NFL one way or the other. Talking about future NFL prospects that played their careers at Miami, how are some future NFL prospects potentially signing with the Miami Hurricanes? There's a big one. Number one overall prospect, depending who you ask. Number one offensive lineman, depending who you ask. Certainly has all the big boys after him. He is somebody who has just named a top six. When there's top six is announced and it's news, that means you're a big-time player. Certainly doesn't get more highly acclaimed than Jackson Cantwell. So Jackson Cantwell, those of you who follow recruiting might know his story. Both of his parents are Olympians in the throwing events. I believe both in shot put. Dad, multiple-time world champion. Both were American Olympians in the throwing event. So this guy's genetics in that respect are ridiculous. He is himself an elite thrower, 6'7.5", 305 from Nixa, Missouri. And look, number 1 overall in the On3 industry ranking as a player, number 2 On3, number 3 247, number 2 ESPN, number 1 Rival. So anyway, he sliced the top 3 player in the country. He listed his top 6, got the pancake there, and the lucky teams are Georgia, Michigan, Missouri, where he's from, Ohio State, Oregon, which is considered the leader, and that probably makes the most sense for some reasons, and then the University of Miami. 158 pancakes, 0 sacks. You watch his highlights. This is somebody who they didn't pass the ball very much at his high school, but because of his power, man, you see him just driving this guy halfway across the stadium. That's what stands out. I saw him at the Under Armour game. Very raw as a pass blocker. You could tell he has some work to do there, but the upside with his frame and just the power he has in his hands, and look at him just toss that guy to the sidelines, is huge. Everybody in the country was after him, including the Miami Hurricanes. And one thing that jumped out to me, so I'm pulling up some quotes here on Jackson Cantwell. One thing that stood out from him was he visited unofficially. His mom went with him. So that's one thing that stands out. Because you got to follow the business. He's been to Miami, and he's going to send an official visit, it sounds like, to Miami. But the fact that when he listed his top 6 schools, the first thing he said about Miami was the quality of life at the university is what stands out. And then, of course, he goes into Cristobal being an offensive lineman and Maribel putting all these top 10 picks, which you knew that was going to be part of why we're in this game. But the fact that he talked about the quality of life at Miami, this guy's from Nixon, Missouri, you wouldn't associate Nixon, Missouri with Miami Hurricanes. In fact, that was my biggest concern with him. But the fact that he pointed that out caught my attention. His mom visited with him. She raved about Miami, both as far as the visit and when they did their in-home visit. Jason Taylor, Mario Cristobal, Maribel all went up to Nixa. And the mom said that she went on the visit. The husband could not go to that one. And when they came back, they're like, you really got to look at Miami. We're very high on them. So
I'll say this, D, when he visited that, I got pretty immediate reaction that, first of all, the staff was treating that visit that weekend like almost like an official in terms of like all hands on deck. When they met with the kid, it was like they threw everyone from the staff at him, right? It was one of those things that they wanted to make him. Some of these guys, even though they're priorities, like they really only know the position coach and the head coach at that stage. Like this guy, it was an all hands on deck effort, and Miami came out of it feeling like they had a solid shot to land this kid. And it's not like they felt like they were the favorites. You understand you're in a battle when you are dealing with this caliber of recruit, but very good. There was very good feedback at the time regarding the visit from people that I spoke to.
Yeah, and the feedback from the Cantwell side has been positive as well. I'll be honest, if I'm making a pick right now, I'm saying Oregon. That's what you hear from the people around the recruiting industry, their sources. And you look at the throwing aspect of it, Oregon track is pretty strong. This guy has a chance to throw in college. I don't know if he's an Olympian like his parents, but certainly that's part of his life. That's the family business. So you could see a program like Oregon that has the track, that has the production from an offensive line standpoint. But look, if I'm Miami, I say they had the number 1 offensive lineman in the country in Josh Connerly, who Mario actually had initially recruited to Oregon, went to Miami. Connerly stayed and stuck with Oregon. But Connerly's going to be a late first, early second round pick. But he was the number 1 overall offensive lineman in the country. You're going wire to wire. Penei Sewell, we know what he did. And Francis Mauigoa looks like he's going to be a top 10 pick next year. So to me, if I'm Cristobal or Maribel, I say, yeah, look, you're going to get drafted high, basically just off your talent. But do you want to be a late first, early second, or you want to be the first pick of the draft? And we can give you the first pick of the draft path. Which, by the way, different position, but they'll probably have the first overall pick of the draft this year. So that, I think, is going to be the pitch. And the fact that the school and the setting is something he likes, I think is an unexpected positive. And we'll see what happens. He's got six teams on his final 4 or his final 6. He's going to set official visits now. He does have the ability to take 6 official visits now, right? They changed the rules. So we'll see if he takes an official visit to Miami. If he does, going to have a great chance.
We have almost 1,000 on with us live right now. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This is Canes Insight Daily as we go live every day, Monday through Friday.
Yep. Real quick, baseball season's coming. I went to a couple scrimmages. I think I went I didn't go Saturday. I went
Friday.
I went Friday. Bats are waking up a little bit. They're up and down, kind of warming up for the season. Max Galvin's the name you want to keep an eye on if you're a Miami Hurricane fan. As far as the newcomers, Max Galvin, left fielder, left-hand swing, really, really talented hitter, has hit every single time I've been out there, and I've been out there a ton. Jake Ogden looking good at shortstop. Guy that's really good hitter, probably hit leadoff. And then Griffin Hughes, to me, best pitcher on the roster. But look, time is running out. Miami Hurricanes baseball season tickets are on sale, but only until February 14th. That's Valentine's Day opening night. For just $175, lock in your spot for all 32 home games at Alex Rodriguez Park at Mark Light Field. Do not miss marquee matchups against UConn tournament team, FSU, Duke, Georgia Tech, NC State, and Notre Dame. Experience the thrill of the U, the legendary Mark Light shakes, and the wild energy of the Miami Maniacs. Secure your seats before they're gone. Visit MiamiHurricanes.com or call 1-800-GO-CANES today. We also got the alumni baseball game and Fan Fest this Saturday, February 8th. The Fan Fest is at 2:30. Alumni games at 6. Free admission, family-friendly fun. My boy Harold Martinez was sending batting practice videos, so he's getting ready to go against Hughes and Robert and all these guys. Former third baseman, led the ACC in home runs. He's getting back into shape. He's sharing his workout videos with anyone who wants to watch him. So keep an eye out for Harold and the rest of the alumni.
I'm gonna find the video. I'm gonna find the video before we're done.
I'll text it to you. So Saturday, 2:30 Fan Fest, 6 o'clock game. Always a lot of fun. Seasons in bloom.
No need to send it to me. I have it here ready, man.
You got it?
I'm here. I got it ready.
Let's see what Harold's got here. Oh, here we go. Getting ready for the alumni game.
I'm telling you, I had it ready.
Look at that. Nick Robert, Griffin Hughes, Brian Walters. Be ready. You don't want to be embarrassed by this grown man right here. Harold Martinez, head coach of Braddock, former Canes great. So Saturday.
Does he have any more eligibility left, man? Look at this.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know if was his academics on point? Does he have the GPA, Harold?
Listen, he was still in school a couple years ago.
That's
man.
right. He already graduated.
I think he's officially done, man.
Shout out to Harold, the man, molding men out there in Braddock. So check it out, Canes baseball fans, and of course, Miami Hurricane team store. You already know, promo code Insight 20% off. Pete, anything else you want to add here?
No, that's about it. Kyle said he just placed $500 on Cam to be the first pick. Hopefully that wasn't on what we said earlier, but it does look pretty good.
That's it.
So we appreciate everyone for watching us today. Again, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
Go Canes.